what to expect from that very important meet that's underway in Guwahati as the GST Council meets for the 23rd time. They're going to look at a bunch of changes, and we're going to detail some of them and the impact on stocks in just a few minutes from now. Also coming up today on First Word, while lower savings rates and a stake sale could aid SBI's second quarter earnings, what people will really keep a lookout for is the lender's asset quality and provisioning figure. And so we'll be watching SBI very, very closely, especially since we've had some of the other PSU banks that, sort of didn't do very well this quarter. And what did Donald Trump achieve in his week-long visit to Asia? Well, he leaves with about $250 billion from China. That's the promise of deals, but we're not sure it all adds up. Though, by the way, he's not leaving today. He's headed to Vietnam, but he will end the trip this week. So that's what we've got lined up for you on First Word. Let's get straight to the GST story. Perhaps one of the most important GST Council meetings we've seen since the implementation of this tax. And I think for the last several weeks, we have now been speculating on what could come through. So I just wanted to pull up, that one plate that talks about what the key expectations are from the council at this point in time. And on top of that list is reviewing the number of goods or items, let me put it this way, in the 28% slab. So the last time we were talking about this, I told you everything from chocolate to coffee, to cement, to certain furniture items, to certain consumer goods are in the 28% slab. So washing machines, etc., are all in that 28% slab. I think there are about 200 items in that slab, and several of them, now some estimates put it at as much as to 80% of them may come off the slab. I don't think it's going to be that much because let's not forget, they were put in that slab, I would imagine, on the basis of some math. Because all this government wanted to achieve and all this GST Council wanted to achieve right from day one was revenue neutrality, right? So when they distributed all the various goods and services into different tax brackets, they did that keeping an eye on what the ultimate tax collection figure will be, and they wanted that figure to be the same as we've been collecting through indirect taxes all these years. I'm not sure that they will have too much leeway. It could be that they got some of their math wrong, which is what some officials of the finance ministry have also been saying in the past, that some of the products that used to enjoy an excise duty exemption, etc., we weren't able to calculate the incidence of tax very clearly on that, and so they may have gone into the 28% bracket. They probably deserve a lower bracket. Many of the product categories in that bracket have also been complaining about very, very high taxes. So that slab and the number of items in that slab definitely going to get revised, and a large number possibly will come off that slab. The second thing we're expecting is harmonizing rates. Many products, many items that are in the same chapter have different HSN codes. These are tax codes. This is a procedural difficulty. It's leading to difficulty for especially the small taxpayers in being able to fill in the right kind of data in GST. And GST, all of it is online, right? And so the filling in of data has to be accurate the first time round, because you've got to match all your forms 1, 2, and then 3. So that's critical. They might take some decisions on that. Is what was indicated by finance ministry officials earlier as well. There is the demand that we should have fewer slabs, but I'll go back to the the revenue neutrality argument. I think Finance Minister Arun Jaitley had said that maybe it's too early to consider fewer slabs. We'd like to move towards that, but let's get a fix on how much money we're earning through this tax before we do that. And let's not forget, we don't have that fix as yet, right? So far we've been earning on an average about 92,000 crores every month for the months that we've seen collections come in, but because of the confusion around refunds, etc., we're not sure what the net tax collection is. So he said, look, wait till we have a handle on all of this, whether we're meeting our revenue neutrality targets or not, and then we'll decide on slabs. So slabs is not going to happen today. Reduce the number of forms or raise the quarterly filing threshold.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, so that's going to definitely happen. I don't think about reducing the number of forms may not happen as early as now. I expect there would be a lot of procedural and back-end changes that are required for that, based on my conversations with all the tax experts. But there is consideration that they might raise the quarterly filing threshold. Now, this is a tightrope walk, because the more people you put under the quarterly filing threshold, the more difficult you make for the input tax credit mechanism, because your matching is then happening only over a period of 3 months, not on a monthly basis. So if your supplier is filing monthly, you're producing your filings on a quarterly basis, how does the matching happen? I'm trying to put it as simplistically as I can.
Yes.
And so it's very easy to say, let's put more in the quarterly filing mechanism. I think the last time they raised that threshold to about 1.5 crore rupees, saying businesses who do a revenue below that can file quarterly. The demand is that that threshold should be raised again to a higher number. But like I said, this matching problem is going to prove to be a hurdle for that one change. So let's see how the GST Council circumvents that or overcomes that. And then finally, the last two big demands, which I don't expect will happen today, but I'm just putting it out there, include real estate in GST, and we've talked about that in great detail, include petroleum products in GST. We had the Minister for Oil and Gas also make a case for that. I don't think petroleum products is going to happen anytime soon. Real estate, I don't know. The chances are a little higher for that. Will it happen in this meeting? Maybe not. I don't think so. I think the Kerala finance minister was talking to Nikunj yesterday, and he said, no, we are very opposed to real estate coming in. So I'm not sure which way this is going to go. But 28% slab, the number of items being reduced there, and all the procedural help they can give small businesses, those will be the two things to watch out for in this GST meeting.
Well, so that's the broad brush agenda of the meet. Now, having put that into perspective, let's also get in Darshan, who's put together a detailed list of which companies stand to benefit from the possible, I repeat, possible changes that people expect would be made in today evening's meeting. Darshan, I'm guessing consumer companies is a must, and those would be the ones that will be very anxious to find out what comes out of the meet today.
Yeah, so basically consumer companies, your FMCG companies, your paint companies, your lighting companies, your home furnishing companies, some of these AC restaurants, all of them will be in focus. So there are two brokerage notes that have come out. There are almost 200 items with it, and there will be a lot of cross reference because Havells will be selling, your lights, it will be selling your fans also. So it will depend on what it is. Now this is the Motilal Oswal view. All these brands or all these things like paint or detergent have 28% rate. So there is a chance to if it comes down to 18%, these are the companies that benefit. So from the paints, obviously Asian Paints, Berger Paints, Kansai, detergents, there's hair color, so there's Godrej there. Instant coffee, among the listed companies there is Nestle and HUL. Among the shampoo and deodorants, basically it's HUL. Titan is something that you have to watch out for, only listed watch company. Luggages, there is VIP Industries and Safari, and in footwear there will be Bata and Relaxo. So these are the companies that will actually benefit significantly because of in the consumer segment. Now if you're looking at the segment of electricals, fans, you have Crompton Consumer, you have Havells, you have Orient Electrics and Bajaj Electrical. Switches, Havells, and even cable and wire, there is Havells. So Havells actually benefits across if there is something that's done on the electrical front. And finally, on the home building front, on the tiles and ceramics, lots of listed players that are there: Kajaria, Somani, Asian Granito. In the furniture, these are these ply companies: Century Ply, Green Ply. And mattresses and furnishing, there is Bombay Dyeing. So this is the Motilal Oswal view. In case anything comes down, you'll have to selectively choose from these companies which will benefit or no. Now, Edelweiss has also come out with a note in terms of AC restaurants. If the GST rate comes from 18% to 12%, AC restaurant benefit. But remember, this benefits only if the input tax credit is maintained. If that goes, then they don't benefit. Then it becomes bad for them. Apart from it, again, ceramic, plywood, sanitary ware, handmade furniture, luggages, all of them will move from 28% to 18%. So it's a huge list. There are 200 items, and there are even more companies here. So it's a pick and choose what you need to do, and these are the companies that pretty much will benefit.
When you say benefit, and I think we should draw the distinction for our viewers who may not understand the nuances here, they will, if they're in a lower tax bracket, possibly pass on the entire benefit of that lower, not possibly, they will definitely pass on the entire benefit of that lower tax to the consumer, because otherwise they're going to have, the GST Council authorities watching very, very closely on the whole profiteering aspect of it, right? The diktat is very clear from the government and the GST Council that you cannot benefit from the gains that you get in this tax. You've got to pass the benefits on. Otherwise, the anti-profiteering guys will come after you. So what you might only achieve in all of this is that if you had seen a volume drop because the tax rate had made the price of that unit higher, then that volume drop or that loss in volumes might be recouped because of a lower tax rate, because more consumers might come and buy. And then there's some, slight. So I think it's that kind of gain that you have to watch for, and not any other kind of gain. It's not a direct bottom line gain,
Yes.
right? Not a substantial direct bottom line.
It can be if they don't pass on. So
well, you know, I think
it all depends on the company. So it'll be
companies will
interesting.
find it very difficult not to pass it on, because having lobbied so hard, you know, having been lobbied so hard to move to a lower category, I think the government will watch very closely. They're doing this because they want to take away the difficulty levels. People are complaining that, you know, items have become more expensive. If companies don't pass this on, they are going to face the wrath of the GST Council and the government. They haven't used the anti-profiteering mechanism as yet, Darshan, but nothing stops them from using.
I think a lot of them are household items, so probably they will. I'm not sure if, you know, a restaurant might do it. I'm not sure if, you know, the home building companies
They will have to.
Or the electricals will do it.
I would think the home building companies will do it. I mean, two reasons, frankly, if you go to, I mean, just personal observations. One, if you look at the numbers that have come on QOQYY for a ceramic company or a plywood company, etc., they were very, very meager this quarter that came around. So the volumes haven't been that great. And a personal experience, you know, you go out and buy, because of the large incidence of tax, the vendor himself encourages you to do a cash transaction. So it's actually not turned out to be higher tax collecting move, the higher GST. And therefore, if indeed there is enough watch being kept, and if the tax rates are reduced, then the government might achieve its objective as well of making sure that whatever tax incentive is levied does come about. Because right now, plywood, sanitary ware, tiles, etc., a large sector of dealings is still happening non-bill, and that's something that should correct itself.
Two reasons why they will pass it on. One is, of course, you know, the fact that if your volumes have dropped because your prices went up, only because the tax rate went up, you know, why would you work against your own business and not reduce the price so that your volumes pick up, right? Because at a higher volume, you do earn a higher margin. I mean, it's a matter of scale. And the second thing is that right off the bat of the implementation of GST, you saw consumer companies all drop. For instance, in the soaps category, you saw all of them drop prices like this, because the government has gone on and on about how we expect you to pass on even the efficiency you get from an input tax credit to the consumer at the end of the day. They're very clear they don't want this tax to be inflationary. And so far, we haven't seen an inflationary impact as yet, right? We've seen a lot of difficulties.
I hope they do. It benefits all of us. So I have no doubt that they will pass on the benefit. And it's just that when you gauge the gain on any of these companies, you've got to keep in mind that the benefit will be fully passed on. So what you see is a volume recovery, if anything, for some of these companies.
Yeah, which did get missed out in quarter two. Let's see if that improves quarter three or maybe quarter four, really.